Hello folks, and welcome to this week's video, but no review. If you want to see this week's new review, pop over to my website because that's where you will find it. Link in the description. Instead, I'm offering those new to the channel a quick look at a recently released HiFi News Etc. video, featuring HiFi news of course, but also hints and tips, plus music trivia. Normally exclusive to my Patreon page and published weekly, this video serves as a sneaky peek. Check out the link in the description down below for my Patreon page. Actually, speaking of which, Patreon that is, there is no HiFi News Etc. video this particular week. There is, however, my personal take on the recent Sound and Vision HiFi show in Bristol in the UK. I recently paid a visit to that very same show, and I've published my thoughts in video form, highlighting interesting new products, talking about my favourite product of the entire show, and all that jazz. Anyway, for now, HiFi News, etc. Hello folks, and welcome to this week's HiFi News, etc. We have some hints and tips for, well, a hint and tip for you later on, preceded by some HiFi news, of course. But let's begin with trivia. And this week we're changing the theme. Last week we did a bit of religion. This time we're dabbling in politics. And this is a fairly simple, direct question. And the question is this: what was the hit-making jazz rock band of the late 60s who got their name from a speech by Winston Churchill? What was the name of that band? One more time. What was the hit-making jazz rock band of the late 60s who got their name from a speech by Winston Churchill? Have a little think. I will give you the answer at the end of the video. Please don't use Google or anything like that. This is just a bit of fun. So let the question ferment in the back of your head as the video progresses. Until then, HiFi News. And we will start with a British company offering a rather expensive, rather high-end, rather elaborate speaker-based amplifier system combo thing. The actual company is called Ferguson Hill. I think they're based in Kent. And the product is the Jetstream, specifically the FH001 system. Now, the new Ferguson Hill 8-ohm Jetstream loudspeaker system comprises a pair of Jetstream horn loudspeakers and a pair of Jetstream bass speakers, plus a Jetstream bass amplifier. And this particular system, this setup, is an improvement of a slightly older system that the company produced, very similar. The horn speakers for this particular improved setup features the company's own manufactured semi-full range drive unit created in conjunction with Cube Audio of Poland. Enhancements also include the bass speaker's 3-part feet with internal dampening and removable spikes. The bass drive units include improvements to the neodymium magnets, and as you might expect, sensitivity figures for these speakers are through the roof, touching, well, maybe even exceeding 100 decibels. So, low-powered valve amps would be particularly suited to run them, I reckon. The speakers are large, spanning 1.6 meters in height, 0.9 meters wide, and 0.72 meters deep. A brief look now at the Jetstream bass speaker. The 4-ohm, 5-kilogram Jetstream bass units come as a pair of 600mm diameter clear acrylic spheres with neodymium-powered 300mm drive units and a distributed port loading. The Jetstream bass amplifier controls the bass units with an internal low-pass filter of 140 Hz. Speaking of which, the Jetstream bass amplifier, well, That is a stereo 200 watt Class D design. Ferguson Hill uses 10mm thick CNC machined aluminium billets with a bead blasted and anodized finish to build the amp. The maker also fully damps the amp's internals, complete with a soft start and circuit protection circuitry. Prices, well, this is a top end and then some type of price. For the full system, you're looking at £105,200. For those speakers alone, £72,955. For the bass speaker, £22,295, and for that bass amplifier, £9,950. Get them while they're hot. Next, we're looking at Audite Acoustics and their isolation platforms. They already have one out and about. They've got two more to offer you. The system they use is something called isol-x technology. This is a linkage suspension system which allows the platform to hang in tension rather than the other way, compression. So they prefer the tension over and above the compression. 4 hangers made from a flexible hybrid material allow the top of the platform to move freely on the horizontal plane so that the top part of the platform does not touch anything around its sides, top or bottom, creating, in effect, a floating platform. So I hear the linkages have a near zero stretch, so the resonance frequency changes very little. According to the company, the only physical connection between your equipment and anything else around is limited to those 4 low diameter linkages. Now, Audite Acoustics already have a product out and about, and I'm going to have difficulty, I think, pronouncing any of these things, but I'll give it a go. The one they have out and about is called the Bridge Nadan 2.0, I think, isolation platform, but the company now has 2 new designs for sale, the Duo Niva CLD and the Ojata, I think, Ojata. I don't think it's Ojata, I think that's a little bit obvious. Ojata, I think. Anyway, the Duo Niva, available in black and white. I think they're all available in black and white. Sits in the middle of the range and uses constrained layer dampening and sorbethane hemispheres and something called circ sync. Apparently this is a foot bed. I don't really know what circ sync is or what the foot bed is, but I think it's just a fancy name for the feet constructions underneath the supporting platform. Anyway, all this is included to dissipate energy. The Ojata, and it's a word I love to say, so I'll say it again, the Ojata is the lowest priced platform in the range, made from a single layer of dense, heavy material with this mysterious circ sync foot bed and the sorbethane hemispheres. Now, I have asked the company what this circ sync is all about, and I'm waiting for them to get back. When they do, if they do, I'll put a note down below. Anyway, I'll also put down below a link to that company and you can see more for yourself. And as you can see, I have put prices on the screen for you to peruse. Next up, we have a Platamat from Origin Live called the Strata. Now, with a name like Strata, you won't be surprised to hear this is a multi-layer Platamat. The Strata is actually composed of 3 materials joined together using a flexible bonding technique. Not sure if it's some sort of glue or what it is. The multiple materials are used to dissipate vibration because, says the company, single material solutions only operate within specific bands of vibration. Origin Live also said that because of the slight interaction between each layer, vibrational interference occurs which dissipates resonances. So bottom line, I guess each layer attacks a certain frequency of vibration, and altogether they hit a wide band. And just to reiterate that, the company said, and I quote, "We found that the problem with most turntable mats is that they only work over a specific frequency range and do little to help absorb frequencies within other important ranges. The only way to solve this," says Origin Live, "is to use multiple materials," which makes sense, I have to say. Now, the strata is black in color, any color you want as long as it's black, hey, and will work on any turntable that can accept a 4.5mm thick mat, which means if your turntable does not have VTA, you can forget it. If it does, you're in. Price for this? Well, again, it's not particularly low cost. This is a fairly high-end item. The price is £295. Next is Audiovector and their QR Special Edition speakers. Now, the UK distributor Renaissance has announced the launch of Audiovector's QR Special Edition loudspeakers, which gives me the excuse to talk about them. Now, the key upgrades for the QR Special Editions are these. There are new in-house designed, I must add, capacitors. There is improved heat dissipation via metal-housed resistors. This is all nitty-gritty stuff, folks. There are cryogenically treated internal wires, cables inside. Nanopore dampening material is all over the inside. Bass reflex optimization is included. You also get stainless steel adjustable spikes. The Audiovector dual magnet bass drive sits underneath the fascia plate of the gold leaf air motion tweeter, tooled from a single piece of aerospace grade aluminium. We have all kinds of veneer finishes, and they include white silk, dark walnut, and black piano. And the price, well, there's a whole range of speakers. They start from £1,350. Again, I will put links below. That's your hi-fi news. Let's have a hint, a tip. And in this hint and tip, we are going AV, kinda, generally-ish. So when I say AV, well, that might imply to you a professional setup, something surround sound based possibly, with 4-foot high AV amps and 88-inch TVs. Hey, nah, not this particular one. This particular hint tip is more for those who have a casual TV setup. Very casual, the sort of AV setup that's not so much installed, but shoved into a spare room or office or similar, almost like, well, almost as an afterthought, I suppose, featuring equipment that fits where it can, components that slot in where they're able, the kind of AV setup where you look at the corner of a room and you think to yourself, can everything fit in there, I wonder? And then you measure it all, and that, within a millimetre or two to spare, yes, you just about can. You might be able to wing it. That's the kind of AV system I'm talking about here. Now, of course, the achievement for such an AV arrangement is that it works at all, and that it fits at all. And most of us will leave it at that. Now, it's not exactly audiophile. Isolation really isn't, and component quality might not be. Even so, even in such a situation, do yourself a favor, help the sound a little bit, at the very least. Take the rough edges off those spilling frequencies by shoving some isolation feet underneath the main components and the speakers. I'm talking about the amplifier. I'm also talking about a DAC if you have a separate DAC. And of course, as I say, the speakers. In that situation, what I want you to do is elevate the things. Elevate them all. Use, at the very least, some basic Sorbothane blobby feet. If you can afford to spend out a bit, do so. A good balance I have found in terms of price and performance are the Sound Deck Mark II Minis, which use constrained layer damping, which was something I talked about earlier on in this video with the isolation platforms, wasn't it? Constrained layer damping. It's effective, let me tell you. That helps to remove vibration. A set of 4 of these feet from Sound Deck will cost you around £65 in the UK. Slightly different outside because of value-added tax, etc. Slightly different outside the country if you're calling from the US or Europe. So yes, not particularly dirt cheap, but they mix low-ish costs with very good quality and very effective. They are also low in height. They are flat-ish discs. Now, some taller isolation feet do risk, in especially cramped places, being nudged with an elbow and then falling off the feet and coming down with a crash on your shelf. Not these flat discs, so there is that safety thing going on as well. I'll put a link below for the products, but adding them will, well, it will tighten the bass, especially underneath the speakers, add clarity in the mids and the treble with the addition to the amp and the DAC. They will lower the noise and increase the focus all over the soundstage. And that's it, folks. That is the hi-fi news, etc. for this particular week. But before we go, you'll want an answer to that trivia question. And the question is, what was the hit-making jazz rock band of the late 60s who got their name from a speech by Winston Churchill? And the answer is Blood, Sweat and Tears. When they put the house lights on at the end of an all-night session at the New York club, Al Kooper noticed there was blood on the organ. At that moment, he decided that the perfect name for his new group was going to be Blood, Sweat and Tears, which is almost a lift from Churchill's speech. The only difference being that Churchill also promised toil as well. Al Kooper did not. And that's it, folks. Thank you very much for staying to the end of this particular video, and I'll be back next week with another one. Until then, folks, bye-bye for now.